Summer's heating up, Indy. Is your AC ready? At LCS Heating and Cooling, we don't follow a corporate playbook. We follow the needs of our neighbors.
We are locally owned and fully invested and always here for your comfort needs when it matters most.
Right now, get a professional AC deep cleaning for just $89. Real value from a team you can trust. Contact us today to discover the difference with LCS Heating and Cooling. LCS Heating and Cooling, launching the way to lasting comfort solutions.
Outside the Forecast on WTHR Plus is sponsored by LCS Heating and Cooling.
January, it is our coldest and snowiest month on average here in central Indiana. What are we expecting for January 2026? We've got to get used to saying that, right? Well, you're probably thinking, well, it's going to be windy, it's going to be chilly, and there's going to be snow chances at times. Yep, that's exactly right. We can probably wrap up this forecast now, but I wanted to give you a little bit more context to things, put some numbers to some things. First off, the biggest driver to our seasonal changes and monthly changes is the change in the amount of daylight and the angle of the sun. We still have really low sun angles this time of year, but we're starting to gain daylight back. We started that back in December there at the winter solstice. It's a very slow start, but throughout the month of January, we start to pick up the pace quite a bit. In fact, later in the month, we're gonna have daylight gains of over 1 minute per day. I know that doesn't sound like much, but you add several days, you'll start to notice a difference. But I want to show you the map across the U.S., how much daylight we are gaining. Of course, the farther north you go, the more daylight you're going to gain. But we're in that 40-minute band right here in Indiana. So a little bit farther to the south, you just have about 20 minutes or so in Florida. They're getting another hour right there by the U.S.-Canadian border. We'll take our 40 minutes. Specifically, though, city by city, a little bit more to the north, a little bit less to the south. But South Bend, 48 minutes. An additional 41 minutes coming to Evansville, and Indianapolis, 44 extra minutes. So when you look at sunrises and sunsets, it kind of plays out like this. We're going to wrap up 8 a.m. sunrises. We're going to go back into the 7 o'clock hour. And there at the end of the month, we go back to 6 p.m. sunsets for that full daylight gain of 44 minutes. We're going to have a little bit in the morning and a little bit in the evening. A couple other things about January that I wanted to touch on, and then we'll get into the typical January forecast and how this year may be a little bit different or similar in certain ways. So we'll get to that. But we got another full moon, of course, in January. It is the wolf moon. Now, technically, the full moon is about 5 to 6 o'clock in the morning, January 3rd. So really the night of January 2nd into the morning of January 3rd, you'll have the full moon in order to see. Now the question is, will we have skies enough clear? You know, we've got a lot of clouds throughout the month of January, which we'll get to as well. It's also known, this is interesting, the center moon by Native American tribes. The reason why, this moon kind of marks roughly the center of wintry weather. Maybe not technically winter from the calendar's perspective, how the solstice and equinox and everything like that start to align. But in terms of temperature and snowfall, kind of the center here in January. Also known as the freeze-up moon. I like that one too. So it's going to be cold. How cold? We typically have average highs in the 30s. In fact, there's actually a little dip you don't see. At the beginning of the month, we start with an average high of 36. We actually dip down to about 35, middle of the month, then we go back up to 36 and then end up with 37. So there's not much of a change. January is a cold month. So a lot of mid-30s likely. Precipitation-wise, we see a little bit of a bump in January because the jet stream is pretty active. Even with snowfall, which there's not as much water and snow compared to just normal rainfall, we decently get some systems typically throughout the month of January. So when you add in rainfall and all melted snow, what you're left over with is about an average of just over 3 inches. So active weather, you don't always see the sun. But when you do see the sun, it's a nice break from those clouds, but you notice the sun is not very high. However, it is climbing. At solar noon in the middle of the month, we have a sun angle above the ground about 29 degrees. This is not to scale, but just kind of to show you as the year goes on, the sun angles will go up, peaking there in June for the summer solstice. UV index is also going to be low, of course. You don't really get a sunburn here in January. But it almost feels like you get a windburn just by walking outside. That's not really a thing, but it feels like it because it's so cold and it's so breezy. The month of January, average wind speed wise, second windiest month of the year. We're just in a windy stretch. I mean, 11.2 to 11.1 or 0.3, it doesn't make much of a difference. We are in our windy stretch. So that continues. We call it Windiana for nothing. But it is, on average, our cloudiest month of the year. 58% chance that you're going to be either overcast or mostly cloudy. So, in other words, we're cloudy more of the days than we have some sunshine. And even when we're sunny, usually in the month of January, it's not as if it's completely sunny. You have at least some high clouds passing on by at times too. But those clouds bring in weather, especially snow. January, on average for Indianapolis, we get just shy of 9 inches. But another way to look at this is January is typically our snowiest month of the year. And you put all our snowfall together on average. Over the past 20, 30 years, we typically get 25.5 inches of snow. So we're in that 20-inch band across much of central Indiana, a little bit less to the south. And then you really ramp up how much snow you get on average once you get really into the lake effect snow band. So that's why there's a drastic change north of Peru and north of Logansport, 60 plus inches for right there at the state line with Indiana and Michigan. But we're already off to a pretty decent start. This graph shows you the snowfall that we've had seasonally since the 2013-2014 season, and ending December 2025, we're over 15 inches, and we're climbing. We've got more snow chances on the way. And also at the end of December, starting January, there's decent snow and ice cover across the North American continent. Hudson Bay is now completely frozen over. Most of the Arctic is now frozen over. So you can still really cool down these source regions. We call them source regions up here towards the prairie pothole region of Canada, where a lot of our fronts can start, and then they push south and they chill us down. So there's plenty of cold air and ice and snow to work with. So that's why we're in this snowy and cold pattern. January is our snowiest and coldest month on average. But there are still times where we can warm up. And it's those days that you have to start watching out for. It's not always a guarantee that severe weather will come after some warm weather. It's all about how things align with the jet stream and the cold front, and a lot of other different factors and timing throughout the day. But we do start to see the deep south get more in on their severe weather season. It starts for places like Georgia, Alabama, and Mississippi. So we'll keep a close eye to the south because we're still getting all this polar Arctic air in from the north, but the Gulf wants to bring in some southerly warmth, so you get more of an active zone to the south. However, if some of that warmth and humidity is able to inch its way north, we can even get severe weather. It's not out of the question. In fact, on average, we get at least one tornado in the month of January. And I tell you what, it was an active year last year. Slipping in at the end of December, there was an EF1 tornado confirmed in Greene County in downtown Linton. We had an EF1 tornado, so 60 tornadoes for 2025. We'll have to see how 2026 goes. So we took a close look at what this month is like. A lot of 30s, snow chances on and off, highest really snow chances of really the year. So what about this January? Well, when we're looking, there's really not a huge indication, for at least for Indiana, being colder or warmer. We're going to have really cold days, and we're going to have some warmer days, but they may balance each other out. So for example, December 2025, so last month, we had definitely more cold days than warm days. I mean, it was warm for Christmas week, but the rest of the month was cold and colder than average. So the whole month skewed colder. But this time, I think we're going to be kind of 50-50. You know, we're also going to have just average days too. And we're going to have our cold fronts, but I think we're going to have our warm fronts too. I don't see January just getting locked and loaded with the cold air, kind of like our December was. But there will definitely be cold shots with snow chances too. And we'll have to watch. If the jet stream is pretty active over us, which it looks like it may be, we'll have multiple chances for storm systems. Those could mean snow, those could mean rain. It could be a mix of the two, or it could even be ice. But we do think it's going to be an active January, but don't expect most of the month to just be super cold or most of the month to be warmer than average. So a lot of different swings, but if the jet stream holds over us, we'll be in the average pattern with a lot of storm systems. So buckle up, January could be an active one. It usually is an active month for us, and this month, for this year, looks no different.
Outside the Forecast on WTHR Plus is sponsored by LCS Heating and Cooling.